So hello and welcome to the video, and welcome to room 2109 on the Celebrity Silhouette, or the beautiful Celebrity Silhouette, as every crew member appears to be contractually obligated to describe it. In full knowledge that this may not be my most popular video ever, I'm going to do a room tour, or perhaps that should be a cabin tour, or perhaps even a stateroom tour, as they don't tend to call these things rooms. They're either cabins or staterooms because you're on a ship. So before I take you around in more detail, let's talk a little more about how I picked this cabin for this cruise. Hi, I'm Matt, and I love cruising. I love the ships, the places you visit, the entertainment, and every now and again I'll also enjoy a drink. So subscribe to see where I go next, and perhaps get some inspiration for your next cruise. Picking a room is quite an important part of the booking process, and it probably merits a video of its own one day. On this cruise I received a free upgrade to Concierge Class, which meant I could choose from cabins on decks 9 to 12. My first stop is to pull up the deck plans to narrow my focus. Here are decks 10 and 11. It can be tricky to see specifically which cabins you can pick from, as the colours are often quite similar, but with some concentration you can work it out. Cross-referencing to the cruise line's booking engine can help. I then pulled up deck 12 and liked what I saw. In general, I feel that the higher you are the better, as you get a better view and you're further from the mechanical bits of the ship. Engine noise is generally not a big deal, but in the past I have been bothered by the noise of lifeboats being lowered to serve as tenders. I quite like the idea of being on the same deck as the pool, as I was optimistic that the weather would behave and we'd be able to spend time outside. So with deck 12 locked in, I narrowed my focus to cabins close to the elevators, and this run of cabins drew my eye. In particular, I liked the look of cabin 2109, as it seemed a little larger than the ones around it. The plan is not going to be completely accurate, but it is a good indicator of what you are going to get. And, as we'll see in a moment, most of that extra space was actually given as an oversized balcony. So I chose a cabin that was on the highest possible deck and was close to, but not immediately next to, a lift. And, as you can see, it was a pleasantly short stroll from the pool to my door. So this is actually the last sea day of a 6-day cruise, so I've had plenty of time to get used to this room and form an opinion on what I think is good and what I think is bad. And it certainly does have good bits, and I think it also has bad bits too. So I'm standing with my back to the window, and off here to the right you have a small working space. Plenty of room for a laptop, probably not a lot else. And we come pretty quickly to the first problem I think this cabin has, which is a lack of plugs. You can see there are 3 here, 2 American and 1 European. Through a process of experimentation I've learned that the European one is by far the fastest charger, but you will immediately see that that is quite a long way from the side of the bed. So this ship was built a good few years ago, and despite having been recently refurbished, it does show a few signs of age still in its design. One of which being that there are no plugs even remotely near the bed. Something you find with a lot of older hotels as well as a lot of older cruise ships, but it is really quite annoying. There's obviously a TV which has the usual celebrity channels on it, most of which are American. They haven't reprogrammed them because this is a British only cruise, but there's still BBC World on there and BBC News if you want to actually keep in touch with what's going on. Tea and coffee making facilities if that is your thing. Bottle of hand sanitizer and a mask branded with Celebrity Cruises should you need it. And then the vanity unit here. A safe, which I haven't used, a fridge which has outrageously priced goodies in it, which, considering it's only about 10 paces to the nearest bar from my room, is probably never going to be a big money earner for the Celebrity line. Then you have 3 drawers, and this represents pretty much the bulk of the storage, and that's the other concern that I have with this room, is that there's actually not a great deal of storage. On the other side of the room is a sofa, which is actually quite uncomfortable. A sort of a strange vinyl effect which doesn't actually lend itself to sitting on for long periods of time. I don't believe this converts into a bed either, although I know that in some rooms it will. Last day of cruise, so the dreaded baggage tags to get off have arrived, and one point I will make here is that Celebrity has made an effort to reduce its footprint, and so its water is provided in these recyclable aluminium cans, which is quite a nice touch, I think. Onto the bed. Very comfortable, slept well, had to ramp the air conditioning down pretty cool to make the bedding appropriate to the room temperature, but that took a night or two to figure out. Two beds obviously crammed together. I can actually feel the join, which you often can't with these, but it hasn't inconvenienced me greatly. Slightly odd design as well with the curved edge, which means if I'm lying on one side straight through, my feet protrude by about 4 inches, whereas if I lie in the middle across the gap, they don't protrude at all. Small vanity unit beside the bed, obviously a light, which is probably at the feeble end of the scale if you were to rate it, but it's good enough after dark. And above the bed is actually some storage. Not used it, and it is vicious. Almost took my finger off the first time I attempted that. Other side of the bed has a similar vanity unit, actually using that to store some overflow clothing. And then you have the wardrobe, which again is a bit puny. So I've overpacked hideously for this cruise because I knew I wouldn't have far to lug my cases because I didn't have to get onto an aeroplane. And bringing more clothes filled out the suitcase so that the stuff that I did bring wasn't rattling around. But it is quite a small space. I've got my suitcase stored in there as well, although I think I could have got it under the bed. But there's no drawers, there's no shelving. And I think if there were 2 of you in this cabin for perhaps a 2-week cruise, or certainly longer than 7 days, that's going to be quite confining. There is another rack that pulls down to provide some extra hanging space. But given this and those 3 drawers you saw earlier are the only real storage space for your clothes, there's not much. I've seen cabins with much more in the past. A definite positive of this room is the bathroom, which is actually quite sizable. Whether the slightly larger footprint of the room has allowed this bathroom to expand in size, I don't know. Toilet and sink, as you'd expect, and a pleasantly large shower. I have certainly been in smaller. Not brilliant water pressure, but you don't expect that on a cruise. But that shower head is actually high enough for me to get the majority of my 6'4" frame under at one time. 3 potions and lotions provided, and overall pretty happy with that. Spinning around, a little bit more storage, and again it's not exactly voluminous. Another cabinet down here which you can obviously use if you need. 3 more tiny drawers here if you have tiny things, and I only found this about 4 days into the cruise, but it seems to just be storage for the toilet essentials. So it's a very decent sized bathroom after all. None of them are ever particularly tall, and I can hit the ceiling if I stand up, but I've been pretty happy with it. And the other big plus of this room, and part of the reason why I picked it, is the balcony, which you can see over here is oversized. I'm actually one deck down from the buffet restaurant, so the floor above extends over the top of this one, which means you are sheltered and shaded. That may be inconvenient for some because I don't think this balcony will get a great deal of sunlight, but it has been pretty satisfactory for me. And then obviously with the 2 relatively standard issue chairs with footrests and a table, all in all it's a very pleasant balcony. So there you go, stateroom number 2109 on the Celebrity Silhouette. This is actually a concierge class room, although I don't think that makes much of a difference on the room itself. I think it just makes a difference to the amenities that you have available to you as a concierge guest. Those include a bottle of sparkling wine on arrival, although that only arrived on day 5 for us because they forgot us. It also includes a tray of goodies that's delivered around 4 o'clock every afternoon. Now, you could call it goodies, you could also call it leftovers, but they are quite nicely done and I've enjoyed them every day. A nice little calorie boost to get you through to dinner. You also do have access to concierge support, not something I usually feel the need to take advantage of, and you do get the occasional voicemail from them explaining what might happen and giving you opportunities to use their services. But all in all, it's been a very pleasant stay in this cabin. Not perhaps the best cabin I've ever stayed in, and notwithstanding the recent refit, it does show a few signs of old age, but I would very happily stay in this again should the opportunity present. So thanks for watching. Like, comment and subscribe, you know the drill, and I'll see you all again soon. Goodbye.